Ladies and germs, this is it. The very final match ever played here at Dime a Dozen. I'm glad you could join us. And we've won the die roll. Again, this is a replay. I do apologize for that. So, looking at this hand, we wish our opponent good luck, of course. We really like this hand. We've got a lot of stuff to do early, a lot of interaction. This is a veritable removal spell. We've got manipulation, we've got permission, we've got a board presence, and consistency by tutoring up whatever we need. This hand is very good. So we keep it. And I had a sneaking feeling, if that's the right phrase, that my opponent might be doing something really red and aggressive. And that actually turned out to be true. Opponent bunny flop, very last opponent ever on Dime a Dozen, suspends a Rift Bolt. So we're playing against Burn. We're going to want to use our permission early and often. I decided to just counter the Rift Bolt. The philosophy I use most often against Burn is to just counter the Burn spell. They point at you. Now he could be missing lands. There's a lot of 2-mana plays he could have that are quote-unquote better than Rift Bolt. But if he's missing a land or doesn't have those plays in hand, our best bet is just going to be to counter that Rift Bolt. Now he ends up having something a little better. It's a Thermo Alchemist, so we need to find removal as quickly as possible. Here I could have either preordained and tried to find that removal, but instead I actually decide to leave up Counterspell for his next play, and then on turn 4 I Trinket Mage for Executioner's Capsule, and on turn 5 I finally get rid of the Alchemist. It's a little slow, but it's a guaranteed way to find removal for the Alchemist while interacting with the opponent in a somewhat meaningful way. So him cycling this Forgotten Cave indicates that he has a lot of lands in hand. That's a very early decision to cycle the Forgotten Cave instead of playing any type of burn. We counter the Spark Elemental. Again, you just counter the burn they throw at you. It's identical to what he's going to play here, which is a Lava Spike. We end up taking quite a bit of damage because of the Alchemist itself. And this time I decided just to tap out. The longer I allow him to have the Alchemist in play, the worse off it's going to be for us. So he actually burns a Fire Blast really quickly. That also points to the notion that he has a ton of lands in hand. So I get the Executioner's Capsule, and we ate a bunch of damage. But the opponent is now a little bit low on lands. See what they have. He actually does nothing. So him doing nothing really indicates that he has nothing. He has just lands in hand or something that he really can't be playing at the moment. So we just take out his guy, and we actually get to start attacking. So this is actually a great position for us because we're still at double-digit life. We have Counterspell in hand. We have a Borderland Ranger to get us an extra land. I mean, here I'm looking to probably Trinket Mage and get a Seat of the Synod so I can leave up Counterspell. And this is really good for us. He's basically flooded out, and he's basically expended all of his valuable resources, which are the burn spells. We've countered only 2 things, and we removed a third, so we've stopped 3 of his cards, and he's drawn 6, 7 lands because of the Forgotten Cave and however much else he has in there. So here, the first thing I want to do is start accelerating my life total, and so I'm going to do that with Pristine Talisman. I'm not going to play anything else this turn. Because we're out of danger, we want to propel ourselves further out of danger as quickly as possible to really bury our opponent and take away any potential chance he has of coming back. So he keeps playing lands. We decide just to counter the burn spell they point at you. It's very straightforward. And I've talked about that at length in different videos and articles. I'm going to preordain. But the idea is you can't really just play a sit back and waiting game with Burn. They're much better at doing that than we are because they have so many. He doesn't have them in his hand so much, but they have so many instants and stuff to play around our counter spells. So whatever they present, just counter it. A Rift Bolt is virtually identical to a Lava Spike, which is virtually. I mean, they're not identical in what they do. What the text is or what what the card subtype is, but they all deal 3. Most of their cards in their deck deal 3. So just counter them. They're all doing the same thing. You counter one, it's no different than countering another. Don't sit back and wait. So anyway, I played Muldrifter, found a land, played it. He realized he's not going to be able to survive, so he quit. Okay, that's game 1. Let's go ahead and I'll talk a little bit about how I sideboarded. So Nihil Spellbomb is not going to do a whole lot besides just cycle for us. Reaping the Graves, again, not going to do a whole lot, especially because we need to interact with the early game. That's when the opponent is trying to beat us. The opponent doesn't want the game to go late. The opponent wants the game to end in the first couple stages. So we need to interact with the opponent in those stages, and if we can survive that long and do what we need to do, the rest will fall into place for us because our deck wants to win in the late game. So we have a bunch of great late game stuff. Deep Analysis is going to lava spike us if we flash it back, and it's expensive to cast the first end of it, the front end of it. So that's going out. I imagine Reaping the Graves is going out. I think I replaced Silkbind with Stormbound Geist just because it hits harder initially, and we need to race them. I took out things like Tragic Slip, Disfigure. I may have even taken out Executioner's Capsule. What you find against Burn is that if you play so many Edicts and spot removal spells, you're just going to be flooded with removal spells. It probably cut Longbow too, and that gives me access to the Dispel, the 3 Hydroblast, the 2 Spreading Seas. This is really This has the potential to be really effective against them because it cuts their mana base down and it prohibits them from casting as many burn spells per turn as they would like to. So this can also stop Fire Blast from being a factor. They can't kick or they can't cast Searing Blaze if one of their mountains is blue. It's a red spell. And I think we did bring in the Geist. Nothing else really of use. So that's roughly how we boarded. I couldn't tell you exactly off of memory, but those are the things to consider. So we're going to be on the draw here, and we end up with, I believe, a 1-lander with a Preordain. So the Preordain really makes this possible because we have a lot of interaction behind it that we like. I mean, the Edicts could be great against a 2-drop guy. The Spreading Seas could be great against a low land hand. The Counterspell is going to be great overall. So we want the hand. So our opponent is going to burn us. We find an untapped second land. So depending what the opponent does, we're definitely looking to either Spreading Seas them or Edict them or whatever. So we end up drawing a Chainer's Edict. So that's the first order of business. Get this 3 damage. Again, just like Lava Spike, this guy does 3 damage to us, but he really does either 2 or 5 damage. So we want to keep it down to 2. So, and it's looking like, based on how many lands our opponent hits, that our Spreading Seas is going to be really weak, just really weak. So we decided to kill the Thermo Alchemist and play our 3rd land, and now we have access to Trinket Mage, which is going to get us another blue source. The problem here, and when I say the problem here, I mean for the opponent, is that they not only Spark Elemental us here, but they get really ambitious, and they Needle Drop, and they Bolt, and they Fire Blast. So my opponent just sacked 2 of his mountains, leaving 1 remaining. So I take the opportunity, because I did find another blue source, to Spreading Seas that mountain up. Okay? And we gain a life, and we have a talisman, so the opponent needs to find more mountains to do anything. The opponent's also very low on cards. So we interacted with just 2 of his cards, and it was enough to kind of keep us alive. And we also gained 3 life with our lands. So here we can Trinket Mage into Counter Magic, which looks like the play. And I'll kind of speed things along. But, I mean, we have so many more resources to give here. And it's turn 5, our opponent has basically nothing. So they Spark Elemental. I actually let it resolve because I'm willing to take the 1 damage. I can block and to only take 1. I can think twice, then I can cast Talisman to get myself back up to 4 and have up Counterspell. And our opponent doesn't have 2 mountains for the 4 damage Fire Blast. So we're fine. This is called lineup theory. This is when you line up the most appropriate response to whatever threat they pose to you. And it's very important, not just in this matchup, but in a lot of matchups in Pauper. So I hope you guys, as Dime a Dozen leaves you behind, or I'm sorry, as you guys leave Dime a Dozen behind, I hope you guys keep that in mind in your further Pauper adventures. So here we just gained some life. I think we got rid of all the stuff with Preordain. We didn't really need Poisoner. We wanted the lands because we can flashback Chainer's Edict and we can play Muldrifter with Counterspell backup. So I think we did keep some lands on top. We also have the Think Twice. We know we're safe here at 4. We decide to actually just leave up double counter while we can. We're going to have enough mana next turn to cast Muldrifter with double counter. So keeping ourselves extremely safe. Pristine Talisman is severely punishing the opponent for slipping, basically not finding any relevant spells in a timely fashion. It's turn 8. Our opponent hates that. We love having another piece of permission. We're hitting a bunch of land sources, land drops, blue sources. So the next few turns is just going to involve us spamming Muldrifters. I use the 2 mana Counterspell to save myself mana next time. I don't need to have a bunch of saved up mana at the end of his turn here. I'm going to also fetch the land to have less of a chance of drawing lands with my Muldrifter. I'm going to spam Muldrifters, and as you can tell, this game is going extremely well for us. This is how you want whenever you're playing blue control, this is how you want every game to look. You have all the answers and more that you could possibly need. The opponent doesn't have many threats to pose. The board is either very unfavorable for the opponent or empty for the opponent, and we continue to just see more cards, penetrate deeper into the deck, and this is very academic from here. And I'm sure you guys all realize that. It's pretty boring at this point, so don't have a ton else to say. I mean, when I first was playing this match and thought I was recording the audio, I was actually, kind of overjoyed that I could end Dime a Dozen on such a resounding note, such a victorious note. We don't really need to do much, but we will preordain, we will Trinket Mage. And I guess I don't know what we're getting with that. Oh, we're getting the capsule. Just because we have two spells to protect us here anyway. So we decided just to maximize the use of our mana as best we could. And the opponent only has 1 red source, and we're at 8, so we're beyond safe. I mean, there's really just nothing that can happen. He suspended a Rift Bolt there. Just take my word for it. Now we can get back another counter spell and continue just to bury the opponent. I'm just making the absolute safest plays I can think of, which is to get as much permission into my hand as possible and to leave it all up. It's not even exactly necessary, but it's probably the most correct thing you can do, and sometimes that's fun. So a little trivia fact for you guys: Executioner's Capsule is going to end up being the final spell ever cast. I guess I spoiled that a little bit. I decided to keep the backwater just to gain another bit of life. And then I do cast the Executioner's Capsule while leaving up my 3 permission spells and being at 10 and having a lethal board. So as you can imagine, that's going to end it all. I found it very fitting. I also decided to counter the Rift Bolt because why not? Again, counter what they send your way. I found it very fitting to play against Burn as our last match here because the 2-man queues in Pauper tend to see a lot of Burn. It is a namesake. It is not a namesake, but it is a stalwart. It is a trusty enemy that you'll be facing in the 2-man queues. People like to get in there, play quick matches, try and burn people out, and earn tickets fast. It's kind of a grinder deck in a way. And so I really liked playing against it one last time and being able to be on the winning end of things, especially with this blue control deck. The use of permission is really key against Burn. Being able to use sideboard cards that otherwise wouldn't seem intuitive or seem natural for a matchup like this and use them to a degree of effectiveness is also pretty cool. But more importantly, guys, this is going to wrap up Dime a Dozen. It's been 4.5 years. It's been a great run. This is one of the longest running Pauper series ever, and I'm very happy that you guys have been able to spend all this time with me, that you've been able to chime in with your comments and support the column and support the videos, support the format. It's a great format that I'll continue to play, and I hope you guys will continue to be on the lookout for my content. So what I hope you guys will be doing is following me on Twitter. Dime Collector SC is my Twitter account. Also, check out my articles and videos on blackborder.com. I've been with that site for many years as well, and I continue to produce content there. And I'm also planning to get back on the horse at puremtgo.com. So I hope you guys will check out all of those things. And again, it just means a lot to me that you guys have been around and enjoying the series. It is coming to a close, but that's not going to be the end of my Pauper content. I hope it's not going to be the end of your involvement with the format. Really, the only thing left to say is, I'd like to thank you very much for tuning in to this final installment of... That's right, Dime a Dozen. Once again, guys, all the best, much love, happy gaming, and GG.